Mark Arnold.
Here.
Whitney Hall. Here. Cody Haney.
Here.
Marvin Kusick.
Here.
Eddie Mack.
Here.
David Mason.
Here.
Cole Ream.
Here.
Don Roberts.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Carla. I hereby call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission to order. And the first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the last meeting, November 20th. If everybody's had a chance to look at those, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion carries. Next item on the agenda is zoning. 4.1 is to consider a rezoning request for property located in the northeast quarter of the southeast quarter and the north half of the southeast quarter of Section 26, Township 23 North, Range 7 west of the Indian Meridian, which is north of Purdue Avenue and west of Cleveland Street. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Planning Commission. This piece of property is approximately 60 acres. It's defined by the yellow outline on the slide in front of you. You can see it's north of Purdue and on the west side of Cleveland. If you're familiar with North Park Estates, there on the east side, it's just across the street from it. And when we look at rezonings, we look to make sure that we have adequate infrastructure to support it. In this case, you can see the sanitary sewer is in Cleveland and runs north past the site, and the water is also in Cleveland, but it stops right there at North Park Estates. So it's there, it's available for the developer to extend it into the site. And on the roads, the majority of Cleveland is paved, but you see in the blue area, it is an unimproved road. And my engineering department is advising us that that is not adequate for R2 zoning, that part. Are there any questions that I can answer for you?
With the expected improvements in the southern areas of Cleveland, is there any expectation that that portion of Cleveland will be improved anytime in the future?
I'm glad you asked that question. We just finished our comprehensive plan 2 years ago, and a part of that was our transportation plan, and we don't foresee the city making any improvements in the next 25 years to that road. So if improvements do need to be done, it would be by the developer.
Have they discussed what kind of density they're looking at as far as improvement?
No, they have not. We've simply looked at what do we, the city, have available in this area to support this rezoning, and we've got water and sewer, and most of Cleveland is paved.
So if we did do a housing addition here, there's room probably to put 2 outlets on the paved improvement.
We would want at least 2.
Certainly.
Yeah, and maybe more, but a minimum of 2. Yeah, depending on how they lay it out, they might be on the pavement. They just have not given us a preliminary plat to view.
Motion to approve so they can start on that.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the rezoning request for the location that we talked about. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion is unanimous. The next item is 4.2, which is to consider a rezoning request for property located in part of the east half of the southwest quarter of Section 14, Township 23 North, Range 7 west of the Indian Meridian, and the west half of the southeast of Section 14, Township 23 North, Range 7 west of the Indian Meridian, which is east of Oakwood Road and north of Carrier Road / Highway 45. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This yellow outlined area represents almost 72 acres. Currently, it is in the county. I want to lift that up first of all, so we go to the county zoning ordinance, which is zoned A1 agricultural, and the applicant wants to rezone that to the county's district A2 suburban, which allows the density that you see there to the left, which is Longhorn Estates. That is the anticipated density that they will develop in there if approved. It's north of Carrier. Water and sewer facilities will be private. Are there any questions?
This looks like it probably would only have one entrance coming in off of Highway 45. And
That's
there's
correct.
no chance of connecting west.
That's its only access, is that piece that comes down to 45.
I wonder how much more traffic pressure that's going to put on Chisholm School coming in and out.
Don't have that analysis to give you, but I'm sure the school will adjust if it needs to. The population goes up. I should have mentioned on the previous rezoning, but I will for sure on this one. We have not received any protests from surrounding properties on the first one you did or this one. I should have mentioned that.
Any other questions for Chris? I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second to approve the rezoning of this last section that we talked about. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion carries. Item 4.3 is to consider a rezoning request for property located in part of the northeast quarter of Section 21, Township 23 North, Range 7 west of the Indian Meridian. Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're still on Carrier Road. We just moved a little bit further west. We're west of Garland Road there. It's part of the Bridge Creek development, and the area outlined, the triangle in yellow, simply just needs to be rezoned to match the rest of the development from the county's A1 to R1 single family. Same as the last rezoning petition, we have received no protests. The water and sewer for this will be private as what currently is in the Bridge Creek. Questions I can answer?
Actively platted in about half that area under the wrong zone?
That's true, and it should have been caught that it wasn't zoned correctly when that was platted, but this corrects that.
Have a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the rezoning request for this item. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion carries. We drop down to paragraph 6.1, which is to consider a recommendation to the Garfield County Board of Commissioners for the final plat of the Bridge Creek blocks 11 and 12, located in part of the northeast quarter of Section 21, Township 23 North, Range 7 west of the Indian Meridian, Garfield County, Oklahoma.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a companion item to the rezoning. As Commissioner Hall pointed out, this is already platted, but now we're going to look in this area, and here is the map of that. It picks up 4 more lots to be added to Bridge Creek. It's recommended for approval.
Simple enough. I'll entertain a motion. Have a motion to approve. I have a second. Again, this is, I have a motion and a second to approve item 6.1. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries unanimously. We drop down to paragraph 8, lot splits. 8.1 is to consider a lot split for property described as part of the southwest quarter of Section 22, Township 23 North, Range 7 west of the Indian Meridian, located at 4910 West Phillips Avenue. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The yellow outline represents 2.06 acres, and the lot split is recommended for approval, but before you do, it is in the county, just outside the city limits. You see there on the right is the red dashed line. The county's A1 zoning requires a minimum of 5 acres to have that, and the applicant went in front of the Garfield County Zoning Board of Adjustment and did receive a variance to the 5-acre requirement. So it's now ready for your approval if you desire.
Motion to approve, and a second. Again, a motion to approve has been given. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion is unanimous. Okay. Now we come down to sidewalk variances, paragraph 11. 11 dot, we've got 2 ones?
That was a mistake.
Okay.
I see that.
Okay, 11.1 is to consider a sidewalk variance for Greg Stong at 410 North 4th Street, described as the north 50 feet of lots 6 through 12, block 23, Jonesville edition. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. His property is outlined in yellow on 4th. The next slide just zooms in a little bit closer. Mr. Stong has purchased this property, and he's applied for a building permit to build a building here. And our current sidewalk ordinance says when you do new development, you have to build a sidewalk along the abutting street. In this case would be North 4th. The property is zoned I-2 light industrial. The applicant, Mr. Stong, has attached his reason for requesting the variance. So any questions staff can answer?
Picture out. Oh, sorry about that.
There's a house in a circle drive, and he's just trying to clean that up.
Yeah.
So,
Motion.
yeah, I'll second it.
I think that's a good motion. I have a motion to approve the variance. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And that one is approved. 11.2 is to consider a sidewalk variance for Clint Watkins at 4810 West Garriott Road, described as the southwest quarter section 107, 22 North, range 7.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Guess that's it.
This property, you may, A.E. Howard Flooring is in this area, if that helps you. And it's right next door to the La Quinta Hotel that was just recently built, and I think you have Car Mart there on the east side. This next slide just comes in a little bit closer, so you can see a little bit more detail. They applied for a building permit to build a warehouse, and that triggered the sidewalk requirement along Garriott. Just want to lift up for commission's consideration. It's right next door to the La Quinta Hotel, and you can see in that slide that there is a sidewalk that they built right here. So just offer that in your consideration. Is there any questions that I can answer?
I'd say in the nature of the ordinance, La Quinta was a complete new development where we're just adding to what we've already got on A.E. Howard's property. So I'm going to make a motion to approve that variance.
I have a motion to approve the variance. Do I have a second?
What is the value of the improvements A.E. Howard?
Don't have a dollar amount for you, Commissioner, but it was 3,600 square foot warehouse. So, well, it wasn't a small building, but as Commissioner Ream had pointed out, it is an addition to existing. You can't see the building in this slide. All the buildings that are there are currently existing.
I have a motion and a second to approve the variance. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Yeah, nay.
Nay.
Were there 4 nays? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nays.
I was an aye.
6. Oh,
I was an aye.
I got David, Mark, Whitney, Eddie, and Cody.
thank you.
So let's see, how does that work? We have,
The recommendation from the Planning Commission and the City Commission is to deny the variance.
deny.
That's what you just did. And we'll take that forward to the City Commission on January 4th. They'll make a final decision.
okay, 11.3 is to consider a sidewalk variance for Chris Brown at 1407 North Taylor, described as Lot 10, Block 2, North Van Buren Industrial Park. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this slide kind of just shows you the neighborhood. You're west of Van Buren, you're north of Poplar in that light industrial zone, metal building development. Again, this applicant is doing an addition. I don't have the square footage. Can't be much of an addition because he's pretty much got the building on there is now. He's seeking a variance to not build a sidewalk on Taylor.
Motion to approve.
Motion and second to approve the sidewalk variance for Chris Brown. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That one's unanimous. And the last one is 11.4, to consider a sidewalk variance for Jack McFadden at 923 South Oakwood, described as tract number 405 in the northwest quarter of 1422-7, west of the Indian Meridian, beginning 990 feet south of the northwest corner of the northwest quarter of the south 330 east. Whoa. Give me a second here. South 330 feet, then east 660 feet, then north 330 feet, and then west 660 feet. I believe that's correct.
Thank you. It is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The property is outlined in yellow. You can see we're south of Garriott, and we're on the east side of Oakwood. On the west side of Oakwood is Oakwood Mall. That helps you get oriented with where this is. And they recently, in a previous planning commission, we did a slot split for this particular property. And the yellow part is the part that got split. Now, on the yellow property, they're wanting to build, it's a storage building. And just like in the previous ones, when you get a building permit or develop, then that triggers the need to build the sidewalk on Oakwood. Are there any questions?
Is that a side, no, I'm sorry, go ahead. Is that a sidewalk that's currently just to the left of that?
There's a better picture, Commissioner. You talking in this area?
I guess it'd be
No, this is all grass. This is a parking lot.
on up, straight up from that.
Up here?
That piece of property. Is that a sidewalk that comes?
No, what you're seeing here is a property line. That's what this is. See these lines right here? And this line? These are property lines, and we get that information from the Garfield County assessor, and they superimpose those lot lines on our aerial photo. So they don't line up exactly, but they're representative, and that's what you're seeing there. So there's no sidewalk in that neighborhood, sir.
But it is just north of the trails.
Yeah, because in the very
can back
bottom
up.
of this photo,
Oops.
you have the apartment complex, and then it's immediately south of that is the
Trail.
pad.
Yeah, let's see if we can pick that up. We didn't quite capture that, Commissioner, but you're exactly right. There's another project south of this one, and then you are down at the half-section line, which is where the trail is, the old abandoned railroad.
In the comprehensive plan of the trails, was there any expectation of connecting the trail northward outside of downtown and Walmart?
I'd have to look at that. Primarily, the trail is where we've built it, but I would hope that eventually we have some connectivity, at least to the mall. But I don't have the specific answer for your question.
Of course, there's no pedestrian.
Apartments, yeah.
There's no pedestrian walkways from the east side of Oakwood to the west side of Oakwood towards the mall property. So regardless, unless you go all the way to the corner, you're going to be jaywalking unless you cross right at the trailhead. So
I'm not a pedestrian, but I do cycle, and this happens to be my little pathway to get to things west of Oakwood, whether that's the mall or Lowe's or Aldi's, is I do come down the trail, and then I work my way through this apartment project because it's just safer for me rather than being out here on a lane. And then we're able to make that little crossing right there, and then once you're on mall property, So I would think pedestrians, if they were living in the apartments, that's probably what they're going to do, is cross and then once they're on the mall property.
Unless they're trying to get to the gas station convenience store that's there,
That's true.
the restaurant that's there, because that's Boomerang, that's there. See, this is, and, you know,
There's also the bank,
you've got the bank.
credit union right there.
Foot traffic benefits from, you know, having a sidewalk there.
Traffic there, though, is a problem. Most of the foot traffic's going south to the trail.
You might get some, though, if they don't have to walk in the traffic to get there.
I promise you, they're not going to walk out of the parking lot to stand on that 75 or 80 foot of sidewalk and then get back in somebody.
If that's the only existing piece of sidewalk, I'd agree.
Yeah.
But the intent is to have a sidewalk that'll get you to those store areas
And you're going to have to redevelop all of that.
at some point.
This
We
one,
have to start somewhere.
We either need to get to the point where we're denying all variances or making them, or granting them. That's the problem we're at.
Or just granting the ones that make sense. I mean, this is an area where you're gonna have, I drive down this road every morning, and every morning I see about 30 kids that stand out in front of that apartment complex. So I know that there's foot traffic that takes place in that particular area, and there's nothing right now that gets them from those apartments to the little corner store to get a juice and a bag of chips, except walking through parking lot areas is inherently dangerous to begin with, or walking in the street.
That's what I do, and that's probably what they do.
I've cycled through there before as well. Coming out of my neighborhood much further north, Oakwood is significantly safer than some of the other options. It's traffic.
Parking lots are not without hazards. People are backing up, and you're harder to see on a bicycle, and you're hard to see as a pedestrian.
It's a pretty busy area.
Do we have anybody
Answer either way.
signed up to speak on behalf of this project?
Is anybody in the room? No.
This is one that's kind of stinky.
Yeah.
You're darned if you do. And you're darned if you don't, because no one will ever use this sidewalk. No one's ever going to use it. Because
Have an estimate of what it's going to cost for the sidewalk? I mean, not to put anybody on the spot, but does anybody got it?
For 80,
how wide is that piece of property, Chris? Is that,
We can probably calculate here a little bit.
Well, it would be,
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. What's 12 times
So-
10? 120, maybe 125 feet plus or minus in rough round numbers. Our standard is 5 foot wide by the,
sure, so we're going to spend $10,000 or $5,000 or whatever on a sidewalk that the city will never probably expand the sidewalk up there, so, yeah, it is a catch-22.
Does the council get this,
yes, you are a recommending body to the city council.
whether we fail it or approve it, they're going to make a final decision?
They're the final authority. Yes, sir.
well, let's give it our best shot, guys.
We're talking about moving people from the parking lot that they probably should not be walking in. We're moving them closer to the street by 3 feet, 5 feet. So, I mean, I understand why the other one recommendation was turned down. I get that one. This one, I don't really get, to be honest. So,
you're that close to the trail.
yeah.
I think so, too.
Well, then you have an additional shopping center just to the north of that intersection. And
You
that
do.
mall parking lot, people fly through it. And there's no established.
and I don't think 120 feet of sidewalk fixes this problem, and I don't ever see any of the other sidewalks being put there unless somebody burns something down and wants to rebuild it.
What kind of trigger would it take for the apartment complex to have to go through this same?
If they made an addition to their property,
Not necessarily a remodel.
no, it'd be an addition.
But are there any grant programs available for them to?
The apartments, I don't know.
that's probably not old enough to take advantage of a lot of those kind of programs.
See, Tinker's not going to do anything
Tinker will never do anything.
anytime soon.
I would still make a motion to deny and use that as a recommendation.
Second.
So,
Okay. I have a motion to deny and a second for item 11.4, which is the sidewalk variance for Jack McFadden. All those in favor of the denial?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Okay. You got that, Carly?
Yes.
Okay. The denial is passed, and that concludes the normal schedule. I need a motion to adjourn.
Before you adjourn, I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, sir.
Next month is January. We normally meet the third Monday. Did you go over that with them?
Yes, last month we did.
Okay,
yes.
just a reminder, it'll be the fourth Monday next month. It'll also be the fourth Monday in February, just FYI, and then we'll be back on our normal routine. Thank you.
You're not on the list, I'm sorry. I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Do I- And a second. All those in favor of adjournment, aye.
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 Those opposed? We are adjourned.